Welcome to Gain Clarity to Optimize Revit Efficiencies, an IMAGINiT Clarity overview. Clarity allows you to access your data in new and insightful ways. With unique task automation and analytics, you not only save time on Revit or BIM 360 design projects, but can also understand how different aspects of your models affect project performance. Let's take a look.
So when we look at the past couple of years with Clarity and we collect this data from our clients, how much time have we saved all our clients? So it's now approaching and is well over 600,000 now hours. So when we look at a project, we're saving our clients 284 hours per project on an annual basis, meaning that's time that instead of them waiting for Revit to do something or that they have to set something up in Revit and do something beyond their normal work, which would be designing a Revit and drawing and adding information to the model, they have to stop what they're doing and do other things in order to, get your job done. And that's where Clarity comes in. It tries to capture that and return that time to you so you can continue to design while some of the mundane tasks are taken care of by Clarity automatically for you. So when we look at Clarity, the key features are of course the task automation, and that's where kind of Clarity started with that task automation, and that's where we can automatically create PDFs, AutoCAD files, Navisworks exports, and not only can we create this information, we can create it either on demand or on a schedule automatically, and then take that output and send that to other consultants, other partners we're working with, throw it into their box sites, their Dropbox sites, and so on. And we can automatically back our projects up, take a BIM 360 site and download every file from that site and download it to a local directory if you need to back it up. And if you have Dynamo scripts, we can automate the running of those and also make those Dynamo scripts more accessible to the standard users who aren't programmers and don't use Dynamo day to day. Another important part of Clarity is the insights, the ability to look at our projects, look at how we're working with our models, average opening time, synchronization time, how many views do we have that aren't on sheets that are taking up space in the model, and so on. And of course, the data reporting. So this does two things. One, it enables the non-Revit users to get information from the model and from the Revit models there, but it also allows us to organize that data in unique ways, such as data sheets, which if you do institutions, schools, things like that, government buildings, quite often, especially in hospitals, for instance, you have to have a data sheet for every room because you have to understand, the oxygen going in, electrical components. There's all types of supply things that need to go into a hospital room and so on. So you need to be able to get data about that room and have reports on each room. So when we look at versions that Clarity supports, it basically supports all the currently supported versions of Revit. So you can have 17, 18, 19, and 20 all simultaneously within your organization, and Clarity will work with all of those. And we do have some limited support for 29 and 16 projects. We'll be using a 29 server to basically open and upgrade temporarily your projects and still run tasks on them. So when we kind of look at the architecture of how Clarity's set up, you look in the middle here and we see Clarity's on your premise. So you have a server or a virtual server, and this can be in, if you have all your information virtualized, it can be in the virtual environment as well. And we have Clarity installed as a host on a server. Then you can connect up to 3 computers that come with it. You can also buy additional what we call task server licenses too, for as many as you need. And these are computers that you designate and you provide to run the tasks. So Revit's installed on these machines. The host collects the tasks, sends the instructions to these task servers, and these task servers then run all the tasks. So basically, it's like having a little farm of computers that are doing all your tasks for you automatically. And those files can be anywhere. Those files could be on your network server somewhere. That of course could be a cloud server or your local server. It could be on a Revit server if you're using Revit servers. And Clarity also has a security module that's an additional tool that you can acquire that would allow you to connect your Revit server to an outside Revit server securely if that's something that you need to do as well. We can also host projects that are on your local Revit servers or in BIM 360, either the classic team environment or the BIM 360 design environment, or even if you have files in a project-wise, they can be there and hosted there, and Clarity can see those projects as well. So pretty much anywhere where you're going to keep a Revit project, Clarity can see. And again, when we send files out, we can send them to different network folders, to BIM 360, ProjectWise, Dropbox, Box, SharePoint sites, and so on. So that, again, can be automated. So when we look at some of the workflows that Clarity automates, of course, it's going to be the exporting and printing tasks. These are all the ones that we can automate and automatically extract this information, have all the controls for it set up, meaning that what exact settings that you need when you're sending these things out, drop these things into folders, sending them to other clients, cloud-based sites and so on there. We have some data tasks that we could pull model metrics out for the model metrics analysis, or we pulled information from the Revit database to populate Clarity with that information. We have model exchange and management tasks where we can take a Revit model and clean it up, fix it, remove views that are not on sheets, purge the file, and then send that file as a detached copy to another client into their standard BIM 360 site, if that's what you want to do. If you're using Classic Glue, we can automatically publish Navisworks files or DWFs into the Classic Glue environment and so on. We can also upload or replace models in collaboration for Revit or the BIM 360 site. We can view the models within our own environment. So if you want, you can allow your non-Revit users to view the models within your own environment. We have other tools for kind of IT management where we'll go in and back a project up or take all the project files or families in a directory and upgrade them from one version of Revit to the other automatically, so you don't have to do it manually. We can also pull harvest information from the model, such as pull all the families out of a project model and store them in a directory there. And we can also, like I said, support custom tasks such as Dynamo, Revit macros. And we also have an API for Clarity, so you can do your own kind of custom programming for it too if you have that ability. The next thing, of course, Clarity does is that insight. So we have the change tracking. We can look at web schedules. We can make bi-directional edits. And I'm going to show all this in the Clarity environment, of course, in a minute. But I just want to go over the key features first. And of course, we can also create those web data sheets or any type of data sheet about any object type within the model. And again, we have that one Clarity database, and we can collect all the information from all the models and aggregate it into a single database. Then we have all those tasks that can run on all or any of the models. It sends all that information into that central Clarity database. We can extract from that all the data, the schedules, any of that information. And then those schedules can create even diagrams of where the objects are or color code things. We have those data sheets again. We support 20 categories of objects. And you can customize the data sheets to look any way you want, to have images, to have key plans, and so on. It's all completely up to you. We have cross-project querying abilities to look at family usage across all projects, for instance, as an example. We have, like I mentioned, those insights where we can look at a project and look at the historic file size of a project and see if all of a sudden, why did the file double in size on this date, what happened, and so on. We have the warnings that we can track. We can, again, keep an eye on Revit warnings and make sure that projects don't have a lot of warnings, or they have warnings of a low nature, so it's not that important, or we have a lot of high warnings where we really should look at that. And again, that performance information on models that can help us control, why are the models so slow to open, or what's going on? Can we reduce them in file size and so on? So those are kind of like all the key things that Clarity can basically pull forward. And we provide these dashboards for the metrics. And of course, I'm going to go over all these so you can see all that. We have the model analytics, so we can look at individual models across all projects or individual projects. So a BIM manager has the ability to look at all their projects in a second and see where the problems are. We can create different types of graphs. We can set up warnings for each of the metrics that we look at, and you set what you want your corporate standards to be. And this metric summary page allows a BIM manager to look at this and see every project that they have active. And the ones that are red here may have issues, the ones that are yellow have potential issues, and the ones that are white are okay, that there's nothing going on with them right now, they're following the corporate standards. So now in this nice, easy to view dashboard here, in just a few seconds, I know where to look for my problem projects, projects that might be at risk. So right now I'm going to go into Clarity itself. So like I said, Clarity would be hosted on your own infrastructure, whether that be a cloud-based infrastructure that you're using or your local one. And I'm going to log in here with my credentials here. Oops, just want to make sure I get into a new page here. Sorry, bear with me there for a second. And we'll go back into Clarity here. So we'll log in with my credentials, and this can be set to be your Active Directory credentials, so you don't have to learn any new passwords. It can be integrated into your single sign-on. So we have the web page here where we're broadcasting within your organization, showing all the projects that I personally have permission to participate in. So I basically told Clarity where my Revit project was. What's nice about Clarity is it's one of those few technologies out there that it only makes your life better, but it doesn't really require you to do anything different than what you're doing now. So you don't have to change the way that you work on your projects to use Clarity. So in fact, a user wouldn't even know Clarity was involved in a project unless they were told about it. So right here on this main projects page, this is where I see all my projects. I can organize it by a list or a grid. I prefer the list. I mean the grid view here, I should say. And sort them by different, names, number, and job number, name, and such. And then I could favorite them by hitting the little star here, and it puts the starred projects at the top of the list. Because you might have 50 projects that are active. The ones you're working on, you can star and basically favorite. So I'm going to go into this card here, the Granite State Nature Center, and go into that project. You can see there are also tags I could have sorted by. So show me all my 2020 projects, show me all my Revit server-based projects or my BIM 360 projects. So again, back out on that all projects page, I have my tags here. So these are my 2020 projects, 2019, 17, some older 16 projects that I have, projects that are Revit server-based, projects that are BIM 360 based, and so on. And then back to just all the projects. So this is my project homepage. You design or set, put whatever you want here. It's like a custom bulletin board for your project. So I have a simple welcome message. I put an image here. On the bottom, any files that are involved in this particular project that I haven't filtered out, I can filter out the Revit models that I don't want to use. So I have 3 files here that I'm using: an architectural, structural, MEP. I see the version, so obviously because I'm working as the architect, we've saved Essential 410 times. It's Revit 20, it's a 151 megabyte file. It was last modified on the 16th of October by this specific user. So I have all that information about my projects, and obviously these ones here are just simply updated models I'm getting from my consultants, thus the version is much lower. So now I have all that information about my project on this quick dashboard. Up to the right here, this is where I have tasks that I can run on demand. So if I decide that I need a PDF file right now, I just come here, select PDF permit set, and hit run, and that's it. Or if I'm in Revit and my manager comes over and says, hey, I need the permit set printed right now, or progress set, right? Well, what do you have to do? As a Revit user, I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to go in and I have to set all the print settings, get a sheet set up, hit print, wait for Revit to finish printing. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, depending on how many sheets are involved there. Then I have the file that I created, the PDF file, that I have to drop it into a folder, or FTP it, or email it, or drop it into BIM 360 somewhere, whatever. So I have to do all those things. So no matter how long it takes to print the PDF, we're still looking at a good 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes, regardless of the size, that I have to stop what I was doing to print that PDF set for the manager or whatever, which is just a cost of doing business, things we need to do. Or in the project, I could be working, my manager walks over my shoulder and says, hey, I need a PDF permit set. You go, okay, in just a second here. You go to our pull down, you launch the task tool for this particular project, Print the PDF permit set, hit OK, done. You continue working. That information is sent to the host. The host sends it to a task processor. The next available task processor claims the task, prints the PDF, puts the PDF wherever it needs to be, whether it be a folder or an FTP site or wherever, and then it sends you an email saying completed, and then you could forward that to your boss. Or better yet, instead of your manager coming to you to get the PDF set printed, all your manager would have to do would be to log in to Clarity. They'd have a login. They don't have to know anything about Revit. Pick the PDF permit set out of the list and hit run. And then they're done. They don't even have to go to their staff anymore. Some of these things are essentially self-service. So right now, a project manager, someone who's never touched Revit in their life, can not only print a PDF permit set, they could extract AutoCAD files from it and send it to another consultant. Okay, that just got done. I'm going to send my architectural model to my MEP engineer to their BIM 360 site where they've asked us to place it, run, that's done. I'm going to print another set here. I'm going to get a model. Oh, another partner architect we're working just updated their model. They want us to go get it. I'll get it myself. I don't even have to be a Revit user to know to do that. Right here by hitting the run button. So again here, I can publish my model. Hey, I wonder what this model looks like. Let me publish it to the viewer, the Clarity viewer, so it gets updated so that I can walk through the model and see what it looks like right now. So all these things can be automated and be done by anyone who has access to the portal. So these are tasks that I can run manually. But when I look at where I manage our tasks here, I can actually go in and when I set a task up and I edit that task here, I can set that task to not only run when you want it, basically on demand, but the key here is I can set a task to be set up to be scheduled. And now I'm going to take this specific task, maybe printing a PDF, whatever, right? And I want to have it print every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 a.m. That way it's going to be at night. When I come in the morning, it's already going to be ready there. I can have it copied to an external site here and so on. So I'm going to take this task and have it run automatically. It's also launchable, meaning people can run it manually, but that task is going to be set to be on a schedule. And that's the key to Clarity, is that all the tasks can be set to be run at any time of the day, on weekends, at night, when people aren't working on the project and you want to have things ready when you come in the morning. So all these tasks can be set up basically at any time. And like I said, when I was creating a task here, there are all different types of tasks that Clarity can do. I select add a task and I can pick whatever type of task I want. So I have my collaboration task where I'm publishing a model here to an FTP site or Dropbox or whatever. I'm downloading or synchronizing all the files from the BIM 360 site and downloading it once a week to my local file share to back up my Revit information from BIM 360. Running my model metrics. So these are just all the different types of tasks that Clarity can basically run and be set to be on a schedule, and that's the key. And then I have tools for looking at, how the tasks ran, if they ran successfully, if there were problems. I can see all that information in Clarity here. And this is my task timeline. This is some tasks I ran earlier this morning at 11 a.m. And if I want, I could go back to a very specific date and time here. So I'll go back all the way down. Let's go to May 17th here. And here are all the tasks that ran on that day and what time they started, how long it took for them to run, and so on. So I can even analyze my task servers to make sure I'm using them efficiently and spread my tasks out. So there's a lot of tools in here for managing our tasks and making sure they're getting done quickly. So again, just on this demonstration file here, this project, I personally saved myself 32 hours where I didn't have to wait for Revit to do anything. It printed a PDF, it extracted a file, it did some functions. So whenever you're working on your project, that's recorded here. So at the end of the month, you'll get a detailed report on all your projects and how much time you've saved, and see that instant return on investment. There's not very many tools out there, technological tools like this, that can actually really show you what your return on investment is. This tracks it real time. That's a very unusual feature right there. And you can see that the information in my model, here's my last database export. So it's today at 11:47 p.m. So now when I move to the next topic, which is the reporting, I now know that all the data in any of my reports is from an hour ago. So if I select my door report here, This is a report that you create in Clarity. It's important to understand that these reports here have nothing to do with the schedules in Revit. A model could be devoid of all construction documentation and just be a pure model, and these reports would be here and would display the information. So the only similarity between a Revit schedule and a Clarity report is that they both derive their data from the same source, which is the Revit model. So in this case, I'm looking at a door report that I have created in the Clarity environment. I said I wanted a door report. It's an instance report. I wanted these very specific columns in my report, such as the door number, the family name, the type name. And at any time, hey, I'd rather have the fire rating up here. I'll just move it there. Now, this is a temporary edit. I've now moved the fire rating up, and now I can see the fire rating more clearly in the front of the list. And I could sort by any of these columns too. For instance, I could come in here and sort by the manufacturer and say, only show me the HURD doors. And now I'm filtering the view to only show the HURD doors, or only show me the doors that are under the manufacturer of TGP, or the manufacturer of Therma-Tru, of which there are just two here, as you can see. And then I could go again back to all. I could even take the column header and put it here. And have right here, I say I have 46 doors under HURD, TGB's 35, and so on there. And I could take the manufacturer column and put it back. If I leave though and come back to the door report, it resets it so that you can't damage anything here. If I hit show diagram, as long as you have rooms in the project, and this is an instance-based schedule of objects, then it will show you where all the doors are. And then if I have columns here, then any of those columns can be used to be a filter. So it makes, not every column here I would use as a filter wouldn't make sense, but fire rating would. So right here, I can see all my 1 hour fire rated doors. Doors in red are doors that have no information in the parameter. It's blank. And then ones that have kind of this bluish color here, someone put 3 dashes in there because they weren't yet sure what the fire rating should be. And then again, the doors here, we're missing fire ratings in those doors here. So it's just a quick way to kind of get a quick look at your model and see where problems may be. Additionally, down in the bottom here, you can of course view a printable view and print this with or without the diagram. You don't have to use it. It's generated automatically. You don't have to do anything to get it to happen. Basically, as long as you have rooms, that diagram will be created. Or I can hide the diagram. I don't need that anymore. I can also export this out as an Excel document. Or the really important or powerful tool here is that as long as they're given this permission, a non-Revit user has the ability to select, and from the web page, I can update the Revit model. So I'm going to suggest a new number for this door. I'm just going to call it, 124G, let's say. And then this door over here, I'll change this one and I'll give it a letter A or something. Because this is an instance schedule, I can change instance data. The rest of the data in this particular report is type information, so I can't change it. If I create a type schedule, then I could change the type data. So I'm going to select update with those editing requests. That's a key word there, request. So right here, it tells me that, hey, be aware that these two fields may be out of sync with the model because these are editing requests. Again, if I go back to my master page here, I can see any editing request that is currently active. You can see these are in a created state. If I go to my model now, a Revit user would get an email periodically that there's been editing requests. They'd be able to come in here and look at change requests, see that there are some change requests for this project. They can see what person requested it. They can select the door. It will take them to wherever that door is in the model. Okay, do I want to allow the change? Yes. I accept that and it updates the model. I don't have to do anything except to either reject or accept the change. If I reject it, it'll ask me why I'm rejecting it and I'll enter that data. If I accept it, it will update the model with the change. So I select the items that I approve. So it still requires someone in Revit to approve the changes. So someone can't just change the model without some sort of gatekeeper, if you will. So right now, if I look at the status here, the status is accepted. Once I hit save the central here, so now I'm updating the model. What am I doing? I'm committing that information to the model. When again I go back to the Clarity page, if I refresh the view, notice now that it's all there synchronized. If I go to all requests, this is every single request ever made in this project since the project started. The very first editing in this project was on May 17th, 2016 at 5:27 p.m. So that's last time, the very first edit I made in this project. And then of course I could change that, the date created, and look at today's date instead. There's the last one I just did here. It was committed to the model, and that's change 731. I can select it, get information about the change, who created it, when it was created, what parameter was updated. Everything is fully tracked. So you will always know when anyone changes a model. You can sort by a username, by a date, whatever you want. So every change request is fully tracked, so there's no danger of something changing something and no one not knowing about it. So I think that's a key thing to point out. So again, reports can be on any type of object in a project. So I can have a keynote, not a keynote, sorry, a door report, or I want to look at mechanical equipment types. This is a type schedule now. So this is the type of equipment. If I hit edit data here, I have the ability to change more fields, and I can even set it up so that I limit what a person can change something to. So instead of having it the Wild West where they can type anything they want, I can restrict an answer to, well, you can pick a manufacturer, but only out of the approved manufacturer list. If this was a room schedule, maybe I could only pick the paints on the wall that are of the approved list of paints for the project. So those are things that I can set up so I can limit how people edit the models using this tool if you need to do that. Moving just back to the regular report here, I can even build filters in the top, filter it by a manufacturer, hit update, and now I see all the manufacturers of carrier, which is just one. I could also see, if I have different manufacturers, I could even look in what model. These are the three models. I could choose a model here and look at what model I'd like to see information for. So these are just different ways that you can set up and configure the reports. But the key here is that now a non-Revit user not only has access to the information in the model, but the ability to actually make editing requests. If they see a problem, instead of having to print it out, mark it up, send it out to someone to get done, they can just make the editing request right here, and that essentially a markup gets right to the Revit user. They see what it is, and then they can decide if they want to accept it. So it just doesn't update without at least a gatekeeper, as I mentioned, seeing that something has been requested to be edited. So again, you can create reports on anything really that you can create a schedule for in Revit. Generally, you can create a report for it. Any object type thing that you need. It could be, rooms by department, or material quantities, or detail items, a view report if needed, a report on all the views in a project and such, if that's something that you need, and then categorize it by the view type here. So I know that I have, detail views here, I have elevation views here, and so on, if that's a way you want to organize your report. Now, as I mentioned before, another type of report are the data sheets. And where the data sheets were really born was room data sheets. That was the first type of data sheet that we had, and the most common one that people use Clarity for. So when I select a room data sheet here, I designed the data sheet myself to show this information. There's a nice editor built into the software. It's very simple for anyone to use. If you can work with Word, you can design a data sheet. You put in whatever, we have a list of all the parameters that are available. You choose the ones you want to read from the model, and then you type in a header. And then we have some of our own tools. One of our tools will automatically, you can basically create a view in Revit that you'd like it to cut the views out of, like a cookie cutter. So I've told it to very specifically use a very specific view that had color on, had casework visible, shadows, because I wanted it to essentially look more like a presentation type of view. So it shows me the room layout for this room. Here are the list of all the rooms. Our tool also will automatically generate a key plan if you'd like it to do that. Nothing you have to do but say yes, and it creates that key plan automatically. Nothing you have to do, very simple there. And the key plan here is not only a way to see where the room is, it can be used to navigate to the other rooms by clicking a room here. As you can see there, I just navigated to the room on the right, or this kind of small viewing room right here. I've navigated to this viewing room. Or down to these classrooms here. I can click on the classroom and it takes me to the classroom there. You can see here we're extracting across 3 different models, MEP equipment, rooms, doors, whatever, in this one room right here. And we can even see furniture that's in that room. In this particular room, there are 30 chairs. Here is the chair data sheet. We have a data sheet for each chair. One of the tools in Clarity is to pull images out of the Revit models themselves, the families. So I extracted all the images out, or I could have picked a JPEG image that was embedded in the furniture if that's what I'd rather see here. And here's this piece of furniture, other furniture in the project. And these are the two rooms where this furniture is right now. And I can click on the room and it would take me to that room. So these things can be automatically without me really having to do anything except put in these different types of tables. And of course I can print this right now. I can print it as a batch and print all the sheets. It'll create a nice booklet. You can specify a cover page. It'll have a table of contents of all the rooms, and then you have a booklet of all your data sheets, which is simply something that would typically take, a week in Revit, weeks with AutoCAD. I can reduce that to a few seconds in Clarity. I spend an hour creating my data sheet, the template, and I just run the data extraction, data sheet's created. And just like with the reports, if someone selects edit data here, they can go in and they can edit the data on the data sheet. So I could change the room number, the paint number. I could restrict the types of baseboard. Maybe it's only tile, vinyl, or wood, and you can only pick one of those three for the type of base finish that there is. You can control all of that and edit the rooms via data sheets or any object that you've created a data sheet for, such as HVAC equipment. You could have a data sheet for that, or the mechanical spaces, or even air terminals if that's what you want. Or here's my mechanical equipment type schedule here, and I could edit the data here too, and edit data about this object, and also see that there are two instances of it in the project itself. So this is mechanical equipment, so I can even edit the instances or just the type in general from this one page. So again, it allows a project manager, someone who would redline a project and suggest edits that way, can now kind of self-service that. But it still requires someone in Revit as the gatekeeper to look at those things. So moving on here, another couple of extra features in Clarity, such as the model map tool. This allows me to see all the linking structure of our projects. I could say, show me just the linking structure of the architectural model. And we have the architectural model at the center. I see I have one AutoCAD linked in, and I have other Revit models that are linked into this. I also can see the Keynote file if I have one. If any of those other files that I'm linking into the project would all be available to me here, and I'd be able to see that linking structure and what's linked into what. I also to track modeling activity. So for a project here, this is kind of getting into some of the metrics here. I have the ability to see the total time spent editing every model in the project. So this will collect all the time everyone's working on a project. So at the end of a project, I know how many hours we spent on this project at any time on all the models. Obviously, the models that I'm just linking in from consultants, I'm not doing much in, but my team has spent maybe 22 hours in the architectural model to date. So this is just information that you can choose to gather if you need it. Another thing that I look at inside of Clarity that's also useful for the non-Revit users is, again, the viewer here. So the viewer allows a non-Revit user to navigate and walk through the model. So you can create models of just the structure and MEP, for instance, or all three models collected together, and then allow people to go in and not only kind of walk through the models here, but also get information from the model. So this is the overall view. Any perspective views that you've created would automatically be displayed here. If you don't have any perspective views, as long as you have rooms, our tool will automatically create a viewpoint inside of every room that you have in the project. So you don't even have to set up these views. And once, of course, you've set the view up, then, of course, you can navigate very easily in that room, the whole project. If I want to look up here, I can change my eye point with a roller here so I can be a little bit higher. Maybe I want to go above the ceiling here and look at all the roofing and the HVAC equipment that might be on the roof here, or look down, roll the roller, and get back in the building and change my eye point, and again, walk around. And the key here, too, is if I look up at this piece of equipment, I can get information on that, and all the Revit data for this heat pump is available to me. And if I want to turn off something, I just don't want to see the ductwork or the lighting or whatever right now, I can go in and turn off things I don't want to see. So if I don't want to see conduits and fittings and cable trays and air terminals and ductwork, I can turn off all the things I don't want to see in the view. But if I leave the view and come back, it resets everything. Again, as I mentioned before, I could go to my MEP model instead. And in the MEP model, I created two different views, one that's MEP and structure and one that's just MEP. So I wanted a kind of a cleaner model here that just shows the interaction between the HVAC or the MEP information and the structure. And if I want to turn off the roofs here, because maybe I want it to be easier to see, I would come in here and I would turn off the roofs. Then I could double click on an object to help me zoom into it, and then I could easily change my eye point and then walk around the model here. And again, so now I'm just seeing the interaction between HVAC and structure. And I come over and I can look at this base mounted pump right here. I can select it. I can see that it's on panel 1P6, circuits 22, 24, and 26, so it's a three-phase device. So again, all that data is at my fingertips as a non-Revit user. So we've kind of looked at some of the basic tools in here that really are kind of for the non-Revit users and the Revit users, the task automation and so on. And now we can take a look at the model metrics. So for a user can look at model metrics down to the left here, and they can see the models that are in their project, and based on the color here, we have across here, these are the rules that my BIM manager has established for my firm. And then my level of compliance. So green means I'm compliant with the rule. Red means I've broken the rule. Yellow means I'm getting close to breaking the rule. So I can see my relative health here of my models. So I can see here that my MEP model is pretty good. There's a couple of violations that I need to look at, but not too bad. Same with the others, but I do see that the architectural model has a lot of violations. If I hover over them, I can see the number of in-place families has been exceeded. The number of unused materials in the model has been exceeded. The number of views that are not on sheets has been exceeded, and so on. So now that I know where my problem areas are as a user, I could use my graph tool here to look a little bit deeper into those metrics. So for instance here, I'll just close these down for a minute there. So right here, these are all the metrics that I can look at. So I can choose, for instance, to look at synchronization time as an example, and I'll view that. So historically, I can see my synchronization time, and there's a big spike here because this is when I actually updated the model from, I think it was a 2016 model, and I slowly upgraded it to 2020. So this is just showing kind of that process here. And yeah, there's a spike on this particular date and time right here, and I can see that was January 15th, 2018. So if I want, I can go ahead and I could pull my slider here to isolate that little moment in time. And I can see that, well, it only spanned an hour. The synchronization time started at 4 seconds, ended at 4 seconds. It just jumped up to 23 for an hour, then it went back to normal. Not really concerned. So I can look at any metric this way: opening time, the number of views not on sheets is one that's a big problem with this project here. So right here, the number of views not on sheets, I'll view that. And you can see here that it started at 4:55, which is terrible. And then it went down to 328. That's good, but it did go up a little bit here because I'm going to add a new view that's not on sheet. So I need to look at, well, what's going on here? Why did that happen? But I can see the trend in when things happened. If this is something I want to keep an eye on, I can favorite it. So now I can see that from the last time I ran the metric, it's actually gone up 14%. And is that something in the past 30 days? Yeah, 7 days. So it's been a while since that's basically changed. If I again look at synchronization time here, and I'll view that, I can also favorite that. So that way, the last time the metric was run, it's actually gone down 25%. That's pretty good. So that's where I want this synchronization time to go down, not up. So I'm keeping an eye on that. So this is at the user level. Now a BIM manager, on the other hand, has the master metrics here. So when they go to the master metrics page, they're taken to the metric summary page. This shows the status of every active Clarity project. So right here, I can see that I have 2 projects that they're breaking rules. I have this project here that's getting close to breaking rules but hasn't violated any. And these other 3 projects here have no issues. They've not violated any rules. If I look at the Health Club one here, I can see that only one of the models is breaking a rule. And the only model that it's essentially breaking is the clipping is disabled. And it's not even breaking it, it's just getting close to breaking it. Okay, so that one's still pretty healthy. Let's look at the Granite State Nature Center. Okay, this one has problems. Every model, of which there are 4 in the project, is at some level of violation. If I look at the MEP one, I see it's breaking, 5 of the rules right here, number of high warnings, dimension styles, and such. If I look at the architectural model, it's breaking most of the rules and getting close to breaking some of the ones that it hasn't broken yet. Okay, so that's my problem project. So I can go over here to my graphs and I can choose to look at all projects and look at model size or metrics across all projects, or I want to take a look at just the Granite State Nature Center project here, and I want to look at metrics of all time, and I can start with file size. And I can see the file size started at 46, it's now currently at 137, but that's okay for a project of this size. Then I can come in here and say, again, the synchronization time, I can view that. So I can see that it started, at, let's see, the initial was 57, the low is 1.2, and is currently at 9 seconds to sync to central, not bad. So I can see that the history of change, where it started and where it is. And again, one of the big issues with this project was the number of views not on sheets. I can look at that, and I can see where the other models are staying pretty static and are pretty good. This one started at 455, its low was 327, but it's now currently at 376. So at least it's gotten better, but we kind of got it better and then started going back up again. We need to fix that, keep an eye on that. So I can use this tool to then isolate a project and look at the metrics. The firm standards is where, as the BIM manager, I would essentially set up what my firm standards are. So these are all the metrics that we can look at in Clarity. There's a very large list of metrics. And then with each of the metrics, you'll pick them here and then decide what you want the rule to be. So for instance here, under the number of high warnings, 4 is okay. Anything more than 4 is yellow, and 6 or higher is an issue. So I don't want any high warning levels in a project. If I look at the number of views not on sheets for all projects, 20 is okay. 50 is bad, anything over 50. Anything between 21 and 49 will be yellow here. So this is where I establish my corporate standards and can adjust them as needed. One of the key tools here is the alert tool. The alert tool allows me to actually go in and set up an alert before something becomes a problem. So in this case, I can either set up an alert for all projects, or I can set an alert for an individual project. So for instance here with my Granite State Nature Center, I set up a rule specifically just for that project. So in this case, where the rule is an absolute rule, you either violated it, what stage of violation are you in? What this can do is before something hits the violation stage, you could have it send a warning to yourself as a BIM manager and to the project manager of the project. So what I said here was that the rule is that if you're 50 views or more not on sheets, that's the violation. So I set my warning to be at 25. So if you have greater than 25 views not on sheets, I want you to send a notification to this person. So that's going to warn that person that, hey, you're getting close to violating a rule, but you haven't violated it yet. The whole point here is that we can proactively catch something before it becomes a problem. So for instance, hey, we noticed that there was a change in how long it took to save the file. So right here, for file size or the opening time, for all projects, if it all of a sudden jumps up from the last time the metric was run 50% from the previous metric, which was run once a day, send a warning to me as the BIM manager. Hey, this file all of a sudden took twice as long to open. What's going on? Did you add something to it? Did you accidentally link a file in you shouldn't have? What happened? So this again allows you to catch problems before they turn into, or catch things before they turn into problems that could lead to project slowdown or even model corruption. And that's the key here, is this can capture those things. We can even come in here and classify the Revit warning types that we have in a project here. So I would classify the different warnings that Revit can have. These are the ones that I've encountered so far, how many I've encountered. And to me, some of these warnings aren't that important. Some of them are critical. So I control that here. Then when I'm in a project, I have the ability to create a report of the warnings. So right here, I can come in under a management category. I have a warning report. So here are all the warnings in the project, and here's the severity. So I'm going to filter this by saying I only want to see the high severity warnings, high, and here they all are. Or I could take this and put it as a header here, and let me just filter this so it's back to all. And so right here I can see my high, low, and medium warning. So I look at low. There's a couple there. I don't really too concerned with that. Medium, okay, there's some medium issues. We may need to take a look at those. But the ones that I'm really worried about are the high warning here, that these are critical. We need to fix these right now. This is going to be a problem. So this is the stuff that we really need to focus on fixing in this model to keep it healthy. So there are, like I said, all types of metrics tools for a BIM manager to be able to see that type of information. At the server level, the BIM manager can also come in and see things such as under CAD management. I think this is a pretty valuable one here. As we know, you all want to be on not only the same version of Revit, but the same build as well. So everyone can be on the same version. That's easy, but occasionally someone updates a model, their Revit version, someone doesn't. And that is probably the leading cause of model corruption, is when you have different versions or different builds of the same version of Revit. So this tool will report all the workstations in a company. It can show you the version of Revit and what build it has. So you can come in here and say, hey, show me all the Revit versions. And I can see that I have, 30 Revit versions, but I have two 2017s, build 1 and build 2. Well, that's not good. I need to make sure that I only see one build here across the company, right? That's the key. So this has to be one build. Again, this is a huge benefit to the BIM manager. They can now make sure that everyone's on the right version, the right build, and even any of the add-ins that you have the ability to look at any add-in you're using and see what version of that add-in you actually have installed. For instance, I can look at our own RAND utilities here. And this will see any version of plugins that you have registered in your project and will give you the add-in version number. So if you have a single product with two different build numbers, that's a problem. One of them is not up to date. So this is really valuable information for a BIM manager. So again, those are all the key features in Clarity. So at this point, we could maybe open it up to a few questions before we have to stop at the end of the hour.
Yeah, we do have a couple here. So thank you, Scott, for presenting that. Let's start with the first question, which is when you were doing the printing for the PDF, where is it getting the settings for the printing, and where does the PDF driver reside?
So the PDF driver resides in the task computer that you designate to print that, and they reside in Clarity. You set up the task and you select all the settings for printing. So all that's programmed in the Clarity.
Okay. If you're working on the project, when you hit print through Clarity, will Clarity print the sheets as the model is right then, or will it sync to Central before printing?
What it does is it will grab the model from whatever the last save the central was. So if someone saved the central a half hour ago, that's what it's going to print. If someone saved the central a few minutes ago, that's what's going to print. So it gets the model from wherever it is and prints it at whatever state it's currently in.
Okay. And that time savings that you had, is that based on your server specs?
Not based on the server specs, it's based on how long it took to run the task. So if that printing of a PDF file took 10 minutes, then it will record 10 minutes. If it took an hour, it'll record an hour. So it counts the total time the task took to run, which includes copying it to its location.
Okay. Let's see. In the model metrics, is time worked on model based on the model open or the time that there's actually activity?
It's based on the time that there's actual activity, and you can set up what the timeout variable is. So after 10 minutes of inactivity, as an example, it will stop tracking time until someone starts working on the model again.
Okay. Let's see. Who or what determines the severity level of a warning?
A BIM manager has to select that and kind of use their own judgment of whether or not they want that to be a high, low, or medium severity level. So it does take that level of experience of a BIM manager to determine what they consider a high warning.
Okay. What happens when there are updates to Revit?
So I'm not sure if I understand that question.
I'm wondering if it has something to do with the compatibility of Clarity, if they're, go up to a new. Revit
Yeah, I mean,
build?
if there's an update to Revit, then you just need to make sure you're updating your task servers to the same build as everyone else.
Okay.
It does require basic maintenance that you would always do on any of your Revit installs and within your company,
Okay. Can Clarity download all of the families from a Revit file? Okay.
and store those in a specific directory if that's what you'd like it to do.
Can Clarity batch update families to new versions of Revit? Okay. Will I have the opportunity to watch this from the beginning? Yes, I will be sending out a recording early next week so everybody can rewatch it if they've missed any part of this. Let's see. Do you have any examples of a Dynamo task?
I personally don't because I'm not a Dynamo editor or creator. But again, we can set the Dynamo scripts to run on the live model or a copy if it's just extracting something, and that those Dynamo scripts can be set to either be run on a schedule or on demand by the user if that's what you'd like it to do.
Okay. For CAD management, does Clarity source that information by computer ID or some other qualifier that requires IT permissions?
It basically, there's a Clarity plugin that you put onto Revit, and as long as you're logged in, it will collect data from each user's workstation, and it reports that information back when it comes to the model metrics. It's reading that information, of course, from the model that's saved wherever your central model is saved.
Okay. Is it possible to find information deleted, like deleted elements, for instance, in a Revit file with details of when and who deleted it?
No, it doesn't have that data. That's, as far as I know, that's not recorded.
Okay. Can we set up a model metric where we can isolate the number of hours a task per user?
That's not something that's in there right now. It doesn't mean that maybe we could currently do that, but I don't know if that's really relevant. I mean, you can see when a task has been run, and it does. You do know who ran them, so maybe in the chart, I'm not sure for sure, but you can see at any past task that's basically run. I don't know if we actually show. Yeah, we'll show type, name, and if it was user launched or not, but that's about it. We don't show who did it.
Okay. Can you explain how Clarity is licensed?
Yeah, Clarity is simply a site license, so you install it on your site, and you can have as many people and as many projects in it as your hardware can handle. The only time you need extra licenses is if you want to go beyond the included 3 task servers. You can buy additional task processors, as many as you need. We have companies that have 75 processors. We have some companies that have 50 or 100, depending on how many projects they have running at any given time.
Okay. What would you say would be like the average number of task servers that most people use?
Most firms will get 3 unless they're very large multi-location offices. Then they're going to need task servers at each office.
Okay. Let's see. Gotta catch back up with my questions here. Oh, hang on. Okay. Let's see. Sorry. If Seth and John are Clarity managers, do they simultaneously have access to all the Clarity data? Okay. And can Clarity batch edit families? For instance, you add a shared parameter to all of the window families.
It does not have that ability. It might
But
be something you could do via a Dynamo script, and then that's how you would probably do that.
I think one of our Revit utilities does that.
Possibly too. I'm not sure actually.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. I've got a lot of questions and the thing keeps moving on me. Does the project home show all Revit projects or only select projects set up for Clarity?
Project that you've included in Clarity.
Okay. How does Clarity deal with custom project parameters?
Reads all the custom and native parameters automatically.
Okay. Can families be reloaded and updated at each instance in a project?
I don't know if I really understand that, but it does not. There's no tool in Clarity that will load a family or anything like that.
Okay.
It will extract them out and drop them into a folder, or if you have a folder of existing families, they can be upgraded from one version of Revit to another.
Okay. Does Clarity save revision points in time? If a major error was made and was dispersed across a platform, could we revert to before the mistake across the board?
Well, you can set Clarity to back up your Revit model. So if you want it to back up once a day, 3 times a day, that's up to you. And then you could just use that. You could restore the model or get that model from the backup location and then use that as your new central file.
Okay, and we do have a lot of questions around pricing. I don't know if that's something that you can discuss or if we should have a salesperson.
Yeah, they want to go through their salesperson because it's really going to vary on, how many task servers they want, and there's the installation services and the price of the software itself, of course, and
Okay.
whether or not you can choose to either purchase it as a perpetual license, and then you can maintain a subscription to get the later versions. We also offer an annual subscription where you simply rent it for a year, and then you can continue to rent it yearly if you want to do that. So there's a couple of options.
Glad that you guys could all join us today. Have a great day, everyone, and this concludes our webinar.